If I need to say anything, I'll just speak loudly.
Please do, Paul. That'd be great. Thank you. So good evening and welcome. I will read this little covering note I've got here, but it's not going to apply to all of you. So today's meeting is being filmed for a live and subsequent broadcast by way of the council's internet site. The images and sounds recorded may be used for training purposes within the council. Generally, the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, which none of us are at the moment, you are considered to be filming. You are consented to be filmed, and the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcast audio and training purposes. Members dialing in remotely, please turn on your microphones when you wish to speak. Please remember to switch them off when you have finished from that side of it. So just the basic rules, areas that we're probably all familiar with anyway. So we'll make a start in that case then. So item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. Emily, any that we wish to record?
We've had one apology, Chair, from Dr. Richard Morgan.
Thank you very much. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed for that. Item 3 are the minutes of the previous meeting, which we should all have there. So we'll just go through them. Page 3 for accuracy, please. Page 4 for accuracy. And page 5. So there's very much on there for accuracy. And matters arising, page 3. Page 4, the monitoring officer will have some updates a little bit later on in relation to item 6. Item 8, we've got some work that's come in, some forms on relation to member training updates and monitoring those. So if we're all content with that, I'll sign those off for us. Thank you all. So matters arising, monitoring officer, do you want to cover yours in the complaints or cover it now?
Whatever you prefer, Chair.
We'll go for the complaints and we come to that. Yeah. So item 4 will be covered off under the monitoring officer's complaints update later on. Chair's announcements, nothing from me. So in that case, item 6, monitoring officers reporting any update on complaints received since the last meeting.
Thank you, Chair. It's a fairly light report again. I don't regard that as a bad thing, because I think reflecting of the fact that we don't get a tremendous number of complaints referred to the Ombudsman regarding either members of this council or of the 14 community councils in the Newport administrative area. With regard to the community councils, and these figures are from the 1st of January 2025 to present, so roughly the last 12 months. There were 8 code of conduct complaints regarding members of community councils. 5 were not taken forward, either due to the lack of a case on the face of it, or often the Ombudsman will decline to investigate a case where they don't consider that it's in the public interest to do so. That's quite often in relation to the triviality of the issue. I mean, the Ombudsman will tell you themselves that they have limited resources, so they do tend to focus those on the more serious matters. So of the 8, 5 the Ombudsman declined to investigate, and 3 they did investigate, and there was a finding of no breach. Those 3 were at the same community council. As regards this council, there was 1 complaint that was already with the Ombudsman coming into 2025. That's still under investigation. So obviously it's been under investigation for some time, although I did receive an update from the Ombudsman within the last 2 weeks saying that they hope to produce an outcome shortly. So we we await to see what they're going to do and what their findings are going to be, and whether which of the range of outcomes they're going to go for on that one. There is another member of the authority who's currently under investigation by the Ombudsman. That complaint was submitted to the Ombudsman in August 2025, and it remains under investigation, so I'm not really at liberty to comment on that further at this stage. And there was a third complaint regarding a member of this council that was put forward to the Ombudsman. The Ombudsman addressed that fairly quickly and declined to investigate it. It was a complaint about the way a member of this council had spoken to another member of this council. And I think the relevant point to share is that the Ombudsman found that member of this council had made some forthright comments, but had not crossed the line in doing so. And the Ombudsman also acknowledged that political debate is forthright, and there is a certain robustness expected of politicians in that environment. So that's from that one. But as I say, Chair, I don't think there's any more really that I can say about that. I think to have 8 complaints about community councils with the number of community councils that we do have, and three complaints out of 51 councillors here, of those goes back to the previous year as well. So it's not as though there were 3 submitted in 2025. I do think it puts this council and its associated community councils in a pretty good place. So nothing further to add to that, but as always, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions from our monitoring officer before we move on from there? I think from my perspective, what I thought over to yourself, I think it's really good. I'm actually looking at the Ombudsman's report and the statistics that are with that. I think certainly you've got City Council, and as the monitoring officer said, our associate community councils, we seem to be doing fairly well when you look at some of the other stats on there. So that's a pat on the back for everybody there. But that doesn't mean to say we get complacent and not worry about it. But I think there's a really good start for us from that. So anyone else, any comments or questions or issues from that? My online colleagues, Councillor Mert.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I completely agree with you, the comments that you've made, and support those comments. And I'd just like to add that that's a reflection of the really positive and constructive work through the Democratic Services team, and also through Mike, with the early intervention and early advice that actually stops disputes escalating as well. I think it's important not just to acknowledge the conduct of our the positive and respectful conduct of our elected members, but also the hard work that the team put in providing that guidance, support and advice around conduct as well. And I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy, colleagues, much appreciated there.
I think just to add to that, thank you for that, Councillor Bird. I think there is a culture here where the overwhelming majority of members are or do take their responsibilities under the Code of Conduct very seriously. And I mean, they are, most members are very quick to come to me when they need advice on a particular course of action that they're proposing, or when they need help interpreting the Code of Conduct. So I think just for the benefit of the Standards Committee, I thought I should reflect that as well. That members on the whole here are very conscientious about their approach to that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it on that one. Anyone content on that point?
I'm content.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Item 6, we shall move on then to item 7, Group Leaders Reports. As you know, we have the option to invite group leaders along, and earlier on, it may have even been towards the end of last year, I had a conversation with Emily about what we want to do when we invite them. Do we want to get it by paper, whichever. So on this occasion, I just went for the paper one just to try and make everyone's life a little bit easier. And I'm really pleased to see that obviously they came out with the pack. There were a couple from one of our independents that came out that weren't in the pack, but I think we've all got them now. Does anyone, before I sort of make a couple of comments about them, and hope we've all had a chance to have a look at them from there, just want to say a couple of things. This is really, it's really positive, some of the comments. What the leader of the council, Dimitri Matoni, has come along and said, indeed, a complaint I received that we're getting too much training. So obviously, what's going on out there is what we're doing and trying to push it out. And I know it's not just our training, but it encompasses everything that elected members get. It's brilliant on that side of it. And again, the sort of idea that he's got everything in hand with him and the whip certainly looks very good. I think the only comments on his freehand comment towards the end of it, and I will draw this to sort of Leanne's attention, although part of it was certainly not in our gift. But I don't know if you've mentioned, and then he's mentioned he'd like mental health training. So it's not within our gift to provide that. But obviously, Democratic Services can pass that back to him. They think we will do that from there. But certainly, there's a very positive response from him. Councillor Matthew Evans for the political group, the Conservatives, again, he's come along and said, as far as he's aware, these things are going on. They've all got access to governor training as well from that side of it. And really, again, it's that idea my group are well and well aware of the behaviour expected of them. It's absolutely fantastic to see, that all groups, aware that it's not just a total bun fight all the time, and there is actually, there's some standards amongst this that we're looking for. And he's put in his free hand. He's over the last year he's completed a number of training courses and attended several seminars for that. There was some issues in there. Whilst I appreciate some members might want to do some additional elements, I do believe some are too detailed, like disinformation courses, which are 5 2-hour units. Again, not in our gift to try and amend that, but it's something that I'm sure Democratic Services can pick up and take back, feedback to the necessary people. There's very independence, again, another very positive, from my look at it, very positive side of it. And in fact, Mark Howells, for those very independent, has put some quite, heartfelt comments in here about how he really, wants to instill that and standards in all the members of his group. And then Councillor Kevin Whitehead in relation to the Newport Independent, again, very much the same thing on his for it. My groups that we're representing NIP at all times, so the independent party, and even when called off duty, the standards have to be maintained, which is really interesting and important to think about that, because I suspect with councillors, you're on duty 24/7 as we get called up for all sorts of things and spoken to in all sorts of strange places. So it's really good to see on that side of it. So for me, there were some very positive comments on these. Thank you, Leanne and team, for coming up with the stencil. I know it's been there, so it's really good to see that. Are we missing any other parties, Leanne, or we've got everything on that one? We've got the Libs, very independent. We've got Kevin Whitehead and his independent party, yeah. Labour and Conservative. Is that?
Yeah, we've got other parties on the council, but they're here for us.
Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. So just like to put this open now to any of my colleagues here and those of you online for any of your comments and thoughts in relation to these. You should have all seen the stencils. So, I'm going to open the floor up for anyone who wants to have any comments on it.
Chair, it's Paul Worthington here.
Hi, Paul Worthington, yeah.
Oh, thanks. Really useful, really helpful, and appreciations to the leaders for it, and very useful summary. Following from what you said, I was struck by a couple of things. The independent comments about councillors even when they're off duty, I think is a really important thing, because we've spoken before about the time commitment and the personal commitment, but the fact that councillors, by the very nature of their job, their role, they're very visible at a local level. So I think being conscious of the fact they're never really off duty, I think is really important. And it sort of ties into what the Labour leader said about social media, comments on social media and potential mental health impact. So I think there's a theme there about managing the pressures both in person and online, on media, in terms of the councillors. And I think that's a really useful point to pick up, because it's a demanding role, and anything the council can do in terms of supporting training to help members with that role, that part of their role, I think is important. They're very much sort of on duty, and even when it's not in person, their role is present online. I thought those were two really important points. And just to follow on from that, I think the Conservative Party comment, again, useful point about the length of courses as well. I know that developing courses is an iterative process, and they will change and evolve and things like that. But I'm guessing, you know, the colleagues who are setting up the training courses will be looking at this and responding to the needs and the comments on training courses as well. It's important that they're accessible, people are able to manage it as well. So those are my two comments, but really, really helpful responses, I thought.
Thank you, Paul. Much appreciated on that one. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Councillor Mode, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I welcome the quite candid responses from our leaders, and I'm pleased that we've been able to highlight in our discussion the availability of support for elected members. Obviously, as an elected member myself, I'm aware of the support that is in place for us. But it's important to acknowledge, isn't it, and I'm sure colleagues would agree, the nature of politics has changed, and there is that very intense pressure, and it's a 24-hour pressure now. And I just wanted to highlight that it is so welcome to hear the leaders talking about their groups and talking about the support for the members in their groups, but we also need to recognise within this that there's support that needs to be in place for leaders as well, because not only are they at the forefront of their groups in terms of being that public face of their groups, if you like, they're also managing relationships within and between group members as well, and that places additional pressures on the group leaders. So I just think it's important to acknowledge that, and when we talk about welfare of elected members, recognise that as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mills. Councillor Mockford. Sorry.
Councillor Mockford, he's a good-looking one.
Yes, I got. Yeah. Councillor Mockford.
Councillor Mockford. On behalf of Councillor Mockford.
It's a long day.
Thank you. It's even going to get longer. I don't know. Following on what Councillor Mudd has said, the face of the role of the council, even the community councillor, has significantly changed in, I would say, since lockdown. So in the last 5 years, we've seen a significant change in the pressures that members receive. You're pushing standards up, and I get that, that's great. There's messages, there's people now speaking about social media and comments, and we're 24 hours and we're 24/7 and we're all the rest of it, and we never have a private life, and we always go out and we're always on duty, and we're always this and we're always that. But there's no support for us unless something goes wrong, drastically wrong. We have support with regards to our standards from the head of law and standards. So we have that. We have advice we can go to, but there has to be something else. Earlier on, there was mention about mental health awareness training. There's suicide awareness training. There's got to be a whole wealth of packages put around how can we support elected members in this moment in time. I'm not quite sure how to do that. I don't know. I mean, I guess if we were staff members, if members of the dros team were under the same pressures that we would, how would you do that?
So there is some parity of support in place for members and for officers. So we did do some messaging around this earlier in the year, but the message I'm taking back from today is we need to do some more about promoting this. Is our employee assistance programme. So that is direct access support counselling. It does offer a range of benefits there, but what I'm hearing is you issued the message once and you probably need to do some more work on that. So that is around mental health and wellbeing support.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think it's about discussing about it. It's great to hear. I actually have no issues. I'm quite robust in what I'm able to put up with. We had a very robust meeting last night in the chairman here, the Bishop Community Council. But we're big enough to take it, John, aren't we? You know, so. But there are some members who are not as robust and haven't been through the same system that I've been through, when it was quite a fierce system. Standards got invented. So
we are developing an induction programme already for the post the next local elections. I think that's something we can take back and consult with members on a wider basis. Perhaps gather some more info on what would be helpful.
Yeah, I think if Councillor Rhodes, I think you're well.
yes, I am.
Elected members.
I am talking on
whether they can be looked into as to whether that is appropriate.
I mean, as Leanne said, the members do have the same access to the employee assistance programme as staff do, and an email was circulated to all members within the last 2 or 3 months, signposted to that system. I think what we can do is we can publicise that more frequently.
And I think it's understanding the very fact that, and you are right, it's your job, but we can do that. But the male population of members are less likely to seek help. It's like the males don't go to doctors when there's something wrong, they wait till something's catastrophically wrong, and then they go to see a doctor. And it's the same thing with male mental health as well. I'm not saying the females don't, but I'm just looking at things in a different way. And there we go. But thank you, Leanne.
I think something else that was mentioned as well was social media and the impact of that. So I know we've done some development work with members on managing social media. I think we've shared some WLGA sessions as well that people can participate in. I think we are currently looking at what else is available in terms of social media and looking at some best practice around that as well.
Being Councillor Radley, I was insisting I'm going to say your name, then make sure I get it right this time.
It's okay.
And I put a big circle around it, so I got something the right way.
No, it's okay. If I've done anything wrong or said anything wrong, I'm Councillor Monk.
You can Councillor Monk with it,
If I've done it right, I'm Councillor Monk.
Thank you all for that. And any further comments or?
I have, Chair. In support of what Councillor Robley is saying, there is some sort of merit in it, really, because in all fairness, when officers give us a reply, and I'm saying this loosely, and I don't mean this to be rude, they're basically faceless, to be honest, the officers, where members have got to go back to the constituency and they know the constituent, they can be very aggressive and rude if they don't get the right answers. So I said we take it more on the chin maybe than an officer do. So I think there's some merit in what he was saying about we, you know, I can put the phone down after someone's given me a lot of verbal abuse because they haven't had the answer they wanted. Now an officer wouldn't get that because we're taking what the officer have said to us and relating it back to a member of the one of our constituencies. So there is a lot of pressure on members with the constituents as opposed to where the officers have that. So I think the other point I like to make is that although we have the this is just a personal view, I used to like it when the leaders came to the actual standards committee and presented their reports, to be personally, and that's just me. You know, I just found that was a lot better. We could ask the odd questions, and I just felt, but that's a personal view. I used to like it. It's not as if they got to come every month or every couple of weeks. I just found it. I find it better when the group leaders came to the standards committee and presented their reports.
There you go, Scott. And that was actually my decision. But the next piece of next bit of writing I made on here is how would you like them to be invited? You know, how would you like to hear the next one? Whether you like to invite them personally to the next one, or whether you'd like to do the paper again. But I assume listening to yours, you'd obviously like a personal touch for it. I'm going to put it open to my other colleagues here to think what they want to think about.
Didn't you say when it was first established it would be annually or biannually that the leaders would come, please?
I think in the first year that the legislation was in place, they came alternate meetings twice a year. I think the discussion last time was around them coming once a year.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then they'll come later on in the year, or the next one have it, or what do you think?
Yes, I think the next meeting we would have a leaders update, but they would come in person and meeting to that. So the summer. Yeah. So, Councillor Cochrane, just hear quite all of that. The original comments, the original thoughts when we said it was that they would come, and it ended up as being once a year. That's
fine.
To them. So just listening to Leanne and Mike here, sort of sometime in the summer would be the next one they would come to.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's fine. Thank you very much.
I appreciate what I say. Kerry and I had a conversation about in-persons earlier on. You know, it's a slightly different matter, but obviously in person for us suits us better. But we need to consider all the other duties that these people have to go with it from there.
Okay.
Any other comments on that before we move on? Thank you. I think with that, Leanne and T get that out and get them all back to us, and from there. And perhaps if we can just make a note for the Minister, thank all the councillors, leaders that have actually put some input into this, much appreciated on this occasion. So item 7 is the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales annual letter, which is item 8 on our agenda. Before I hand over to Mike, I think I'm probably right in saying that letter and the report actually fit quite nicely together, don't they? Your letter and to be read together in the same sort of thing from there. So I'll pass over to a monitoring officer now for item 8, just to pick up on that. But again, I will say that looking at when I've looked at the report, I think for me, obviously the national context, things are up. But in relation to items points 8 and 9 on the report on page 14 that the council are doing, they deserve a pat on the back for that one. So, Mike, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, not a tremendous amount to say, largely because this is to present largely a reiteration of what I've already said in relation to item 6. I mean, just for background for any members of the public who are watching, the public services on Wales is for investigating complaints about the delivery of services by local authorities, and it's also responsible for for investigating and dealing with complaints regarding the conduct of elected members, both of principal councils, so this one, and town and community councils. Every year the Ombudsman sends an annual letter to the council that sets out Wales as well as specific of this authority. We're asked to present it to the Cabinet and the Governance and Audit Committee, which is in hand. We also present it to the Standards Committee because it does contain that information about elected member complaints. With regard to that, a large chunk of the letter is outside of the remit of this committee. The complaints about service performance, I mean, they're certainly worth a read, but it's the code of conduct matters that are of interest to this committee. And as I say, in terms of performance around elected member complaints, I've already addressed that when I spoke. I think I would just draw the committee's attention to two statistics which are contained within the appendices to the Ombudsman's letter. And the first one is the table at appendix A, page 7 of the Ombudsman's appendices, where that confirms that if we middle part of that in terms of code complaints, that confirms that Newport received 0.01 complaints, code of conduct complaints per 1,000 residents. I think that's the best in Wales, with the exception of Ceredigion. Yeah, looking at that table, so it goes to demonstrate what I was saying before in terms of Newport being right down the bottom of the stats on the complaints league. The other one is just further to my point about the community council complaints, and you'll see in Appendix G, page 31 of the report pack, page 13 of the Ombudsman's letter. We see there that all of the community councils are listed, and in fact all 8 of the complaints received regarding community councils related to one community council. That was Langstone. There were some particular problems at Langstone Community Council. Those problems have now been resolved, so there shouldn't be anything like that going forward. So I think that bodes very well for the future in terms of complaints about community councillors. So unless there's anything you'd like me to expand on, Chair, I think to say any more would just be to go over old ground in terms of what I said on item 6.
No, thank you for that. I'm quite content on that one. Over to my colleagues. Any questions or comments to be made?
Chair Paul here again.
Oh, yeah.
Just to say, really helpful. Not much to note. Just to say, I mean, we note there's the Ombudsman has seen an increase in complaints. I mean, that, yes, that may be taken as a sort of comment on public services, but hopefully it may also reflect that complaints, it's more accessible into developing more accessible complaints processes, we hope. But it's important that people feel comfortable to raise complaints. It's if there is a concern about services, organisations want to hear them and want to be able to address them. So, you know, though we note, you know, it's never necessarily good to hear more complaints. Sometimes it might be about more accessible systems as well. So it's just a side note on that, really.
Thank you very much, appreciated.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or issues? In that case, thank you very much for that. That concludes our agenda, apart from item 9, which is the date of the next meeting, which is the 16th of April. at 5:30. Thank you for this evening. Apologies for the technical delay to start with, but we got the